Let's get started on the zipper pocket for our lining. So you'll have one piece of your lining and also your rectangle that you cut for the zipper pocket. And we're going to put those right sides together. And you want the top edge of your pocket to be about an inch below the top of the lining edge, and we want it centered side to side, more or less. All right, then we're going to get a marker, and I'm going to use this disappearing ink marker, but you could actually use a pen or a pencil because this is not going to show. And I want to draw a rectangle the length of my zipper, which is 7 inches, 1 inch down from the top of the pocket piece. So this is 9 inches wide, so I need to start 1 inch in here. And I'm just going to draw a line here. And then I'm going to draw another line below that, a 1/4 inch down. So basically you want this rectangle to be the width of your zipper teeth, or just a tiny bit bigger. Okay, so this is just a guide that we're going to sew along. Okay. All right, then we want to pin that into place. And then we're going to take this to the machine and just straight stitch right along that line that we drew. Okay, then when you get to the corner, leave the needle down in your work, lift the foot, and we're going to pivot the piece around and drop the foot and stitch to the next corner and do the same thing. Lift up the foot, swing it around, and then sew back. One more pivot. Okay. So we sewed around that line, and then the next thing we're going to do is cut down the center of this rectangle and then into the corners. So you could draw a line for you to follow, but it's not really necessary. You can just, if you want, make a little V at each corner. And then you're going to cut through all the layers down the center and then into those corners. So you can either get started with the seam ripper or just use the point of some small embroidery scissors, just whatever's sharp enough to get started there. And I'm going to just trim right down the center. And then follow my little V and snip into that corner. And then get the other one. basically you're creating a little window for the zipper, which probably doesn't make sense right now, but it will in a second. Okay, so now we're going to take the pocket piece and push it through the opening to the other side. And then we're going to need to press this. So I'll start by kind of finger pressing this top edge. And the interfacing that's on the lining is kind of resistant. It wants to stay the way it was, so that's the part that you're really going to have to kind of force down. And then we'll get this bottom edge. So your corners are going to be a little wrinkly, but that's going to be hidden, so we don't need to worry about that. All right, now let's press it from the front too. Okay, so now you have the opening for your zipper, and let's try this out. We'll put the zipper down on the mat here and see if it fits in our window. So basically when you buy a 7-inch zipper, and that's a little bit longer, basically the 7 inches are not measuring the tape, but they're measuring the actual zipper from the head to the little stopper at the end. Oops. Okay, so it fits in there pretty well. The stopper is a smidge past the end of my opening, but that's no problem. We just need to be careful when we sew across the end that you don't hit that with your needle. So you can definitely pin this into place now, or you could use a little glue stick, whatever you need to hold the zipper in place for you to sew it. So I'm going to grab this glue stick. Something else I use is called Wonder Tape, which is a kind of tape that you can stitch through. And you can apply that to the zipper tape. The tape, Wonder Tape to the zipper tape. All right, so we'll just line that up. Okay, just kind of press that down. And then for good measure, I'm going to stick a pin in the end on here and one at the top. All right, so now we're going to sew this, but we need a zipper foot on the machine. So I've got that here, and basically your machine may be different, but this machine, I just push a little button and pop the foot off. And then you just drop that, and it just grabs the foot. Okay, so now we'll take this to the machine, and we're going to top stitch around the zipper. And there's a couple different ways you can do this, but basically you want to get pretty close to the edge of the zipper, but you want to have a little bit of clearance. If you're too tight to the zipper, then you won't be able to open and close the zipper. So let's see, I'm going to start here. And might want to move your needle position over. If you could remember how to do it. Okay. Actually, I think we'll be okay. All right, I'm going to leave my needle in the position that it's in, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, we're going to pivot again when we get to the end here, and I can feel I'll try to point at it here. I can feel the metal stopper right here for this zipper, and normally I would stitch right across here, but I'm going to go a little wide on this because I don't want to hit that and break a needle. So we'll go a little bit past. And then we'll pivot like we did when we sewed the rectangle. And then pivot back. Now, sometimes when you get to the head of the zipper, depending on the size of the zipper, you're not going to be able to keep stitching straight right next to it because it's going to bump your foot out of the way and you'll have sort of a wiggly line. And you know, I'm kind of okay with wiggly lines, but I try to avoid them. So one thing that you can do is put the needle down into the work, and then it kind of holds everything where it's supposed to be, and then lift the foot up, and then you can move the zipper head like that. And then continue on. And we'll pivot. And we started sewing right here, so we can make it back to there without having to move the zipper head again. Okay, so let's see how we did here. All right, we have a functioning zipper. That's always a bonus. And then all we need to do now is complete the bag of the pocket. So we're going to turn it over and fold this up. And so the bottom of your pocket is going to be this fold, and then we need to sew the sides and across the top. So when you pin this to sew, you don't want to sew through, you know, the main part of the lining. You just want to sew the pocket to itself. So we'll pin those layers together. And just line up those edges. Okay, and we need to switch back to our regular foot. Okay, so you're going to need to fold the lining out of the way to the side like that so that you're only sewing through the 2 layers of the pocket. And I'm just going to sew that with the 1/4 inch seam allowance. And then make a pivot at this corner. And then you have a little bit smaller margin here, so I'm going to flip the top of the bag down, top of the lining rather. Okay, and then one last side. Oops. There we go. Get that out of the way. All right, so now we have our zipper pocket all sewn, and you can see it's got the polka dot lining on the inside. We have all our right sides facing, and it looks great. So we can move on to constructing the rest of the lining.